What's up, guys? Russ from Boat Crafters. So if you're new here, I run a shop in Boynton Beach, Florida called the Boat Crafters, and my Instagram page is Boat Crafters Collective. So I've tried to do the YouTube thing a lot, and I'm gonna try to kind of change my filming format a little bit and put out small videos like a couple times a week. So I'm not gonna ramble on too much. So my videos are more or less just gonna be a day in the life of running this whole fiberglass shop by myself. I tried to hire employees a few times, but it never really works out. And yeah, so that's that. I'll give you a little peek at what's going on in the shop right now. At any given time, there's just, 10 different projects going on and my own personal project. So I really run this business and have all these tools and all these things just so I can pay for my own projects. More or less, if I didn't have this shop, I wouldn't have a CNC machine, I wouldn't have a laser machine, I wouldn't have all these fiberglass tools and all this stuff. So I can build my own boats. Hopefully one day I can build my own boats and figure out how to make money doing that. So if anybody knows how I can get paid to work on my own boats, maybe this YouTube thing, if I stick to it, it might work out. So this is my personal project right now. This is a Sweet 16 Donzi replica. It's actually a 4-winds. So right now I'm in the process of getting all of this. So this back section was cut and slid back, putting an outboard on it, made a custom splash well. So that I'm trying to work on little by little. But today I'm working on retooling all of my hatch molds. So a large part of my business is selling fiberglass replacement hatches for restorations. So something like this. So this is an anchor hatch that's getting shipped to a marina in Florida. I forget where it is, Pine Island or something like that. So what I'm doing here with these two, let me turn this fan off. This is an 8-inch round deck hatch. So this is actually the same as a Contender pie plate. So the lid that goes with this can also swap over to Contender. But what this is a part that's laid up on this mold right now. So you can see that this is a part that's ready to pop off. But I sanded the backside and I'm starting to finish the backside because I'm going to shoot tooling gel coat on the backside of this and lay up another B-side mold so that this will become a press mold kind of similar to this. So some of these small parts, I usually make the molds direct on the CNC machine. So this is a 30-pound density tooling foam. And this is the lid. Here's one right here that I popped out. It's a little messed up. It didn't come out great, but you kind of get the idea. So you see the back side and the front side's finished. I didn't press it down hard enough when I made it, so it left some air pockets, but I can fix this and it's still usable. So to use a press mold, just to kind of give you a little summary of how these work. So this will get waxed, and then a bunch of pieces of glass will just get put in here, and then the resin saturate it, and then you take the B side, so this is the male side, and then you put it down in, clamp it. I put screws in the corners, and then I clamp it as well. And then it just pushes it down, and the excess resin shoots out the side. Then you pop it apart, pull the part out, so then you have a lid, which is, if this one actually worked properly, it would have a finished A side and B side, and then I just have to trim it and it's ready to go. So it speeds up the mold process quite a bit. So that's what I'm doing with this. This is the receiver part to go with this lid. This is a 32 by 12 hatch lid. So right now there's a part in this mold that's laid up in the mold. You can kind of see it's one of my hatch lids. So I laid the part up in my mold with the lamination schedule that I need. So now, last night I started fairing out the bottom of this mold. So what I'm gonna do is tape this off. This is gonna get waxed up, and then I'm gonna shoot tooling gel on that, and then I'm gonna lay glass right on top of the mold. Then I'll split it in half, and I'll have the B side on top and the A side on top. So now when I go to make this lid, I could do it in the same way that I make these. So I just put a bunch of glass down, put the coring down, put the bottom glass down, saturate it really well with resin, put the B side on top of it, clamp it down, and then push it aside and let it cure. So it'll significantly speed up how fast I can make parts. So that's what I'm working on. So here's a 20 by 12 that's in the mold. This part is in the mold and the hatch is in the mold. So these I have to do the same exact thing to, sand and smooth the inside, and then get ready to make the B side for this part and that part. So I need to do this with all of my molds. Man, I wish I could work on this boat more, but it's hard to find time. So I'm just gonna kind of share some of this stuff today. I'm gonna finish this, and then I'm gonna get these ready to shoot gel coat on them. If you're not familiar with my shop, I also have a laser machine. So all my acrylic gets cut on the laser machine. I sell clothing, so I stitch hats. Here's some fake teak, faux teak that I started on a surfboard. This is plywood. So if you need faux teak, like a toe kick rail or something like that, you can do that as well. Do a lot of weird shit here. So just gonna kind of show you some of this stuff today. I'm gonna continue working on this, and then I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do after that. And then when the day wraps up, usually like 5 o'clock, I come over and start working on my own personal project. So I have to do these things to make money so that I can afford all this space, all these tools, so that I can do my own projects. So I need to clean off the CNC machine because I need to make some pieces for this before I make the mold. So yesterday I cut these. This is a 30-pound density tooling board. So this is a mold that I'm making for a customer. It's a 22 by 22 gutterless hatch. Usually I would charge a mold fee to build something like this, but I'm trying to expand my collection of sizes. So this is going to be a direct mold that I'm going to make. So you'll probably see some of this in future videos. CNC machine's running, so it might be a little loud in here, but check out this deal. I got it at Harbor Freight. $28 for a crown stapler. I actually need it today, so perfect timing. All right, while I'm waiting for that to cut, let's see. This is still tacky. I should have put more catalyst in it, but let's see if the open box crown stapler works. Hell yeah. What a deal. All right, so here's the 32 by 12. This is the gutter part. So this is a part that's all laid up in the mold. So typically I would just pop this off, trim it, and send it to the customer, but we're gonna make a B-side mold of this, just like we did with the lid. So first thing I'm gonna do is sand this all down, get all these sharp pieces of glass that are sticking up, get that sanded down. Not overly concerned about how smooth the bottom of my gutters are going to be, so I just need to kind of get it somewhat smooth. Probably not going to use any filler on it. I might just hot coat it a couple times with some resin, with some silica in it, just some thickened resin, and then it should self-level itself out and be smooth enough to where I can wax it and put tooling gel coat on it. So this one should go a little bit quicker. let's see if this is dried. I put it out in the sun. Ooh, it's nice and glossy, but it's still tacky, man. I must not have put enough catalyst in it. I thought that I did. All right, so I also sell supplies, and I have some things I have to ship. Came in on... That wasn't good. Came in on eBay order, so need to ship out some Alex Seal fairing putty. This is the fast activator. So this putty is an epoxy putty, and with the fast activator, you can sand it after 4 hours, which is pretty amazing. Most epoxy putties are going to be 12 to 18 hours. So these are going to New Jersey. That's almost dry. That polyester putty dries really fast, but I also need to ship this. So I'm gonna box this up, make a run to UPS. All right, got the packages loaded up, making a trip to UPS. Man, this is one of the hardest parts about running a business by yourself. It's just like this little shit that needs to get done, like driving to the UPS store, driving back. I mean, if I hit traffic, I could be tied up for 30 to 40 minutes. So hopefully it's smooth, get back to the shop, finish up some of those projects. All right, not bad. It took me about 20-25 minutes. But man, that UPS store that I go to near my shop, like every day I go in there, it's all the employees are brand new. All right, let's see if this is dry. Oh yeah, dried up nice. All right, so this is dried up and this is cured up. So I think I'm gonna do this one first so that, oh, excuse me, so that I could get the imperfections smoothed out. So I had a couple little low spots and it looked like the resin filled it in pretty good. I don't know where it is. Oh, right there is a low spot. So I'm gonna have to sand that down and maybe put a little bit of filler, but the rest of it isn't pretty good. I think it's gonna be good enough. And then I'm gonna hot coat it again. And a little trick that I do for the final thing is I hot coat it, but I put wax additive into the resin so that the wax floats to the surface, and then I really don't have to wax it before I shoot the tooling gel on it. I will go over it with wax real quick anyways. So it's kind of like doing two steps with one, because the wax additive in the resin floats to the surface, but then I was gonna have to polish it and wax it anyways. Yeah, it does. I'm doing two things at once by using the resin with the wax instead of using the regular wax like this. So let me start to sand this smooth. So one thing to note is when I hot coated this, I didn't put wax in it. Obviously I knew I was gonna sand it, but I'm using DCPD resin, and DCPD resin will cure tack free. So if you're using DCPD resin and you're using it to laminate things, you have to sand it in between coats, because this is cured and it's not tacky at all. So if I was to go and continue to put more glass or resin over the top of this, I have to make sure that I sand it. So some resins remain tacky so that your layers afterwards, it doesn't have to be sanded. Usually most resins, regardless of what they are, I would sand it if it sits for more than 12 hours. A lot of the tech sheets say 24 hours. But just quick note, DCPD resin. I noticed isophthalic resin actually cures tack-free, pretty close to tack-free as well without wax in it. So again, if you're using DCPD, make sure that you sand it before putting more glass on it. So I'm gonna sand this, and then I'm gonna do it again with the wax additive. All right, skip that. I just tried to sand it and it's still a little bit gummy. So it's just gonna gum up my sandpaper. So I'm just gonna set it aside for a little bit longer. If it doesn't cure up 100%, then I'll put some PVA over it to seal it up and then wash the PVA off, and I'll be able to sand it easily. I just don't think it's fully cured yet. So I'm gonna switch to that. All right, so I just noticed a possible issue here that I wasn't planning for. So you can see on this edge right here and up on this edge, I'm gonna have draft angle issues. And the reason that is because in this area of the hatch, there's more glass than there is right here, just because the layers from here to here and they overlap in this area, just by the way the lamination happens. So if I shoot tooling gel coat on this and then I lay up a mold, I'm not going to be able to release this B-side mold from this. So I'm going to have to take filler and pull filler on these edges to make sure that I have at least a couple degrees of draft angle so I don't run into any issues releasing the B-side mold. And also when I go to make my parts, it's not gonna go down over the piece. It probably will, because there'll be glass there and it'll kind of push itself out of the way. But once it cures, if it has that negative angle in that top mold, then it's not gonna release itself. So I need to fix that before I make this mold, which sucks. More putty, gonna have to fix it. All right, it's a little sloppy, but I think it's gonna work. So you can see now that putty I added creates a slight draft angle all the way around the bottom, just so I don't have that lump at the top. But putty's a little messy, so now I'm just gonna sand it off smooth. This resin still isn't curing enough to where I can easily sand it the way that I need to. So I'm gonna take some PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, and brush it over this and then set it outside, and that should do the trick. I see you over there. Man, 2 Saturdays ago, I cleaned this entire shop and it was spotless. Man, this is just a week and a half of mess. Most of it was from when I was working on my boat. All right, probably, I don't know, it felt like 30 minutes, but I bet it was 40 minutes or more sanding. It's way more than I expected to have to do on this to get it right, but I had to fix that draft angle or else I was gonna end up wasting all this work. So I just solvent washed it off after sanding it. So now I'm gonna hot coat it with a thing of resin just to smooth it out a little bit more. Then I'll knock that down and then I'll do another hot coat with the wax. So this is pretty much close. I still have to make the wood frame that's gonna go around the outside and then the braces that are gonna support it. I need to make sure that these molds are very, very robust, because we're going to be clamping it down with so much force that you need to make sure that the mold doesn't flex. If the mold flexes, obviously that's not good, because you're going to have parts that are like whoop. We don't want to do that. But let's go see if this lid is dry yet. PVA is dry, should be good. So I'm gonna wash this off with water and then see if I can sand it. So I just wanted to talk real quick about why I'm doing this. And this is something that I've actually been putting off for a long time. So making deck hatches has been the meat of my business for a long, long time. So it's always been something that's a stable income source for me. So a typical hatch is about $500 to $550. So it takes me probably 4 to 5 hours to build a hatch, from prepping the mold, shoot the gel coat, and then to hand laminate it in my lamination room. Probably takes me an hour and a half to 2 hours. Then I have to wait for it to cure, then pop it out, trim it, and then it's ready to ship to the customer. So from start to finish with everything, cutting the coring, cutting the glass, setting up everything, 4 hours is probably on the low end. The medium-sized ones are probably in the 4 to 5 hour range, and then the bigger ones, like the 48 by 20, those take me like 2 hours and 20 minutes to laminate, plus all the prep and everything. So you figure on average, I have about 2 to 3 gallons of resin in each hatch. So let's just call it $30 a gallon, so 60 plus the glass, plus a bunch of various other things. So I'm hovering around $100 in materials. So that's where the $500, $550 price tag comes into play. Is you know, my shop rate's about 125 an hour. So you figure 4 to 5 hours, then that's where the 500 price comes in, and then minus my supplies. So I'm not quite making, you know, I'm maybe making a little bit under $100 an hour, give or take, depending on the size. They're all different. The smaller ones, less materials, less time, yada yada. By making the press molds, it's going to allow me to make them a lot faster. I originally was going to do infusion on these hatches, and I tried to do that over the past couple of years. The problem with infusion is there's a lot of consumable costs. The bagging material, the sticky tape or the tacky tape, the infusion resin's a lot more expensive. The flow mesh, the flow media, the fittings, all that. So then when you make a part, you take all that off and you throw it in the garbage. It's a lot of money just to do infusion. And then on top of it, you don't have a finished underneath of the lid when you're doing infusion. It just looks like it's hand laminated more or less. So by me building press molds, man, trying to hold this camera up is hard. I got it on this heavy suction cup tripod and it's making my arm jacked. So by having the press molds, what it'll allow me to do is shoot the gel coat on the mold, let the gel coat tack up, and then I can come back and just cut big square sheets of chop strand mat in 1708, and I lay it over the top of the mold. So I would lay a sheet, spray it with the resin gun, wet it out, lay another sheet, wet it out, wet it out, wet it out, and I oversaturate the chop strand mat. And then I'll take the B side and put it on top of the mold and clamp it together, and that's it. I'm done. I walk away from it, and because it's under pressure, the resin's going to cure a lot faster, and it'll allow me to turn over parts a lot faster. And the nice thing about it too is I can make multiple A-side molds. So let's say I have a customer and he needs 4 20x20 hatches. Well, I only have one 20x20 hatch right now, and I really can't turn over 2 of the same size in the same day. So if a customer wanted 4 hatches, that's at least 4 to 5 days of work. If I had 2 20x20 A-side molds and I had one 20x20 B-side mold, I could shoot the 2 molds in gel coat, come in, lay that up, press it down, wait for it to cure, then pop the B-side off, move it over to the other one that's already prepped, ready to go, and do the same thing with that. So if I had all the molds gel coated and ready to go, then I could just move the B-side mold from one to the other. So I mean, if in a given day, I mean, I don't even know how many I could turn over in one day if I had multiple A-side molds. So say if I had 2 of every size, it's going to take me a while to get there, because building these molds and then building the B-sides, you can see I've invested a lot of time into this today, and it's hard for me to find time to do this because while I'm doing this, I'm not making any money. So it starts to stress me out as these projects to build tooling take longer and longer, because I'm not working on customer boats. I'm not building hatches for customers. So right now I have 10 to 15 hatches that I have sitting pending, waiting customers to place deposits. So when I'm doing this, I'm not making money. So I have to balance it. Like, I need to do this, make some parts, then do another size, make some parts, so that, you know, I'm bringing in money to cover the overhead, you know, and then just normal life on top of it. My girlfriend wants to see me, and I want to spend time with her, and my own personal boat. So it's an evil balance to try to get this tooling set up so that in the future I can make the money a lot quicker. And it's one of those things that I put off a long time because I was just never in the position to where I had, you know, a financial cushion to where I can say, okay, this week I'm just going to build tooling and I'm not going to worry about customer projects. Like, I'm not in that position right now to do that, but I had finished a couple big jobs, and so I've been trying to put more time into doing this tooling. So hopefully it all goes smooth. To be honest with you, I've never built a B-side press mold before. This is the first time. So I'm going to film making the mold, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the very first part and see if it actually speeds things up. If it doesn't, then I may have to look to go back to looking into the infusion again. But like I said, I don't really want to do infusion because of the cost involved with all the consumables, because if I start to get up over $100 in material cost per hatch, then it just cuts into my margin. It doesn't make sense. All right, so you can see how the iso resin just flows out a lot nicer. Like, I can't really see any brush strokes. So that's gonna work out nice. And this one is, this is all dried up. So this is now has wax on the surface because I put the wax in the resin. You can actually feel it. It's kind of slippery. So these are good to go. I think it's going to be a wrap for me today. It's about 5:30. I haven't worked out in a couple of days, so that's what I'm going to do before I head home. So if you guys kind of like this sort of content, subscribe. I'm going to try to keep doing more of these. If you want to see how these A-side, B-side hatches work out, I've never done it before. This is my first time building a B-side mold. So I'm curious to see how fast I'm able to make a hatch, like going through all this work to make these. So if you're interested in how that's going to play out, stick around. There'll be a lot more videos coming.